In this video, you'll learn the basic rules of basketball. Basketball is played on a rectangular court, which is 22 to 28 meters long and 13 to 15 meters wide. At each end of the court, there is a 45 centimeter wide hoop fixed on a panel suspended 3.05 meters above the ground, the basket. Two teams of 5 players compete over 4 quarters of 10 minutes each. A 15-minute halftime takes place between the second and the third quarter. The objective of both teams is to put the ball through the opponent's hoop to score as many points as possible. A scored shot, called a field goal, is worth 2 points, or 3 if the player has thrown the ball from outside the 3-point arc. The team with the highest score at the end of play wins the game. In case of a tie, the teams play 5-minute rounds in overtime until one team wins. To get the ball across the court, players can only move while dribbling. Or pass the ball, they are only allowed to use their hands. In offense, players can be sanctioned by violation, which leads to a turnover from behind the opponent's baseline. To learn more about it, check out our video on violations. In case of illegal contact, players can be sanctioned by fouls. To learn how not to commit them, watch our video on fouls. Fouls are sanctioned by turnovers or free shots for the opponent. Free throws are shot from a line placed near the edge of the key and are worth 1 point. The key, also called free throw lane, is the rectangular area drawn beneath both hoops. At each timeout, the coach may make substitutions. There is no limit to the number of players that can be substituted. Now you know the basic rules of basketball. It's over to you. In this video, you'll learn how the scoring system works in basketball. The amount of points granted for a field goal varies depending on the situation. In basketball, a basket can be worth 1, 2, or 3 points. Firstly, the 2-point shot. 2 points are awarded for all field goals scored from within the arc. It is the most common situation in a match, as they are the shots that are closest to the basket. Second, the 3-point shot. 3 points are awarded for all field goals scored from outside the arc. If your foot touches the arc during the shot, it will only be worth 2 points. But as long as you take the shot from beyond the arc, you can land on the other side of it after throwing the ball and the shot will still be worth 3 points. Thirdly, 1-point shots. After a foul, one or several free throws may be granted by the referee. Free throws are unopposed shots taken from the free throw line, which was marked 4.6 meters from the basket. In this situation, every basket scored is worth 1 point. These possibilities mean players must make quick decisions, especially late in the game when the scores are very close. Now it's over to you.
In this video, you will learn the different violations in basketball. Violations are infringements of the rules that are penalized with a turnover. During a game, the referee can call different types of violation. The first type of violation is when the ball goes out of bounds. When the ball carrier steps outside of the court, or even on the line, the referee calls an out of bounds. As long as the ball has not touched the ground outside the court, a player can recover it by jumping, as long as they start from within the court. The second type of violation is the double dribble. When the ball carrier stops dribbling, then starts again, a double dribble is called. To avoid this, once they have stopped dribbling, the ball carrier must pass the ball or try to shoot. The third type of violation is carrying the ball. This happens when a player puts their hand beneath the ball while dribbling, and will lead to the referee calling a ball carrying. To avoid ball carrying, the players must control the ball touching only the sides and the upper part. The fourth type of violation is the over and back. In offense, a team in possession of the ball in their opponent's half court cannot retreat back into their own half. Otherwise, an over and back is called. The ball is considered over as soon as it crosses the center line. The fifth type of violation is kicking. In basketball, deliberately kicking the ball is not allowed. On the other hand, if the ball bounces off a foot by accident, the referee will let play continue. Now you know the main violations in basketball, except for the travel and time violations. To learn how to avoid these, check out our videos Basketball Violations Traveling and Basketball Violations Time Violations. The penalty for violations is a turnover from the sideline, in line with the spot where the violation was committed. Over to you.
In this video, you will learn how not to travel. Traveling happens when you move with the ball without dribbling. It is a violation which is penalized with a turnover to the other team. To make sure you don't travel, be careful in these three situations: when you receive the ball while moving, when you receive the ball while stationary, and when you start dribbling. First situation, when you receive the ball while moving. When you receive the ball, if you take more than 2 steps without dribbling, you will be called out for traveling. To avoid this, remember to take no more than 2 steps before releasing the ball for a shot or pass. If you already have 1 foot on the floor when receiving the ball, you only get 1 extra step. Second situation, when you receive the ball while stationary. To orientate yourself and protect the ball, you can turn on 1 foot on the condition that this foot doesn't move. This is called the pivot foot. Once you catch the ball, if you take your pivot foot off the floor or slide it, the referee will call it travel. You may lift your pivot foot to shoot or pass, but you must release the ball before your foot touches the ground again. For information on how to choose your pivot foot, check our video Starts and Stops. Third situation, starting a dribble. When you start dribbling, if you lift your pivot foot before you dribble, a travel will be called. To avoid this, make sure you release the ball before moving your pivot foot. The traveling rule can be tricky to get used to initially, but it will quickly become natural and you won't even have to think about it. Over to you. In this video, you will learn how to avoid committing fouls in basketball. Penalties for a foul can be a turnover or 1 or more free throws. In basketball, there are 2 types of fouls: personal fouls and fouls related to unsporting behavior. First, personal fouls. Any violation committed when a player blocks, holds, pushes, charges, or grabs an opponent is counted as a personal foul. In defense, to avoid committing a foul, you have to block your opponent with the chest and stance. The defender can move backwards or to the sides but cannot deliberately run at the opponent to make contact. Any contact with the arms, shoulders, hips, or knees can lead to a defensive foul and a penalty. While in possession of the ball, a player in attack can be sanctioned for charging if they try to push past the defender already in position. As a general rule, it is the player defending or attacking who approaches the opponent who is penalized for committing a foul. If a player commits 5 fouls, they are excluded from the game. When a foul is called, if the player isn't in the process of shooting, the ball is turned over to the other team. However, if the player is shooting at the basket when the foul is called, they will be granted free throws. There are 2 possible cases. If the shot misses, the player is granted 2 or 3 free throws depending on the value of the attempted shot. If the shot is scored, the points are granted and the player is granted 1 free throw. If a team commits 4 fouls during the same quarter, each new foul will be penalized by 2 free throws. Secondly, fouls related to unsporting behavior. If a player is making rough or excessive contact, the referee can call a foul for unsporting behavior. If a player commits 2 of these fouls during a game, they will be sent off for the rest of the game. The referee can also call a technical foul, in case of illegal gamesmanship or dispute, for instance, or can directly exclude a player for an unsporting gesture that is clearly deliberate. All of these fouls are penalized with 1 or more free throws. followed by a turnover for the opponent. During games, be careful to avoid committing fouls as there can be heavy penalties for your team. Over to you. In this video, you will learn the basics of dribbling. A player in possession of the ball can only move while dribbling. It is therefore essential for you to master the basic techniques. To dribble well, work on these 3 points: positioning yourself properly, controlling the ball, and dribbling low. First, positioning yourself. Standing in triple threat position, draw your hips back slightly to reduce the distance between the ball and the ground. Keep your back straight and your head up to take in as much as you can from your surroundings. Secondly, controlling the ball. To dribble, bounce the ball on the ground. Your hand should stay above the ball. If your hands go underneath the ball when you dribble, you are considered to be carrying the ball, and the ball will be turned over to the other team. Spreading your fingers, you should touch the ball with only your fingers. Do not use the palm of your hand. Remember to keep your wrist flexible. Don't hit the ball, but rather follow it as it falls. The ball will automatically bounce back at the same speed. Don't look at the ball, you should only need to feel it. To practice this, fix your eyes on a point in the distance. Thirdly, dribbling low. Never dribble higher than your hip level. Ideally, you should dribble at knee height. If your dribble is low and controlled, it will be difficult for your opponent to steal the ball from you. The higher and slower your dribble is, the more you risk losing the ball. Practice dribbling with both hands, as you won't always be able to use your dominant hand during games. To practice, try dribbling 2 balls at the same time, getting as low as possible. Over to you. In this video, you will learn the action used when shooting. During a game, each player will shoot at some point, so learning the correct technique is essential. To perfect your shooting action, work on these 3 steps: positioning yourself well, preparing the shot, and shooting at the basket. First, positioning yourself. Make sure your feet are turned towards the basket, shoulder width apart with your knees bent. The foot on the same side as your dominant hand should be slightly further forward than the other. Support the ball with your dominant hand. Your thumb and your index finger should form a V shape. Place your weaker hand on the side of the ball. Your thumbs should form a T shape. Secondly, preparing the shot. Bring your dominant hand below the ball, with your fingers spread out and pointing upwards, then bring it up in front of your face. From this moment, your eyes should be fixed on the basket. Align your foot, knee, elbow, and shooting hand with the basket. The ball should rest on your dominant hand without touching the center of the palm. You should be able to fit a finger into the gap between your palm and the ball. To make sure you're positioned correctly, you should be able to remove your weaker hand without dropping the ball. Thirdly, shooting at the basket. While pushing down with your legs, launch your arm forward, following the ball to release it at the highest point possible. When you release the ball, your elbow should be just above your eye level. You should only use your weaker hand to accompany the ball. Keep your foot, knee, elbow, and shooting hand in line with the basket throughout. If your elbow isn't properly aligned, your shot will go off course. To finish the movement, flick the wrist of your dominant hand to give the ball some backspin. This spin means the ball will be more likely to bounce into the basket if it hits the hoop or the backboard. Follow the movement right through the hand to guide the ball. Your index and middle finger should be the last fingers to touch the ball. You should finish in the rim, with your fingers pointing down towards the ground in the direction of the basket. In basketball, shooting is probably the hardest technique to master, and it needs a lot of training and practice. Each player has their own way of shooting, so find the method that suits you best. Over to you. In this video, you will learn about the different positions in basketball. According to their body shape and strengths, each player is given a specific role in the offensive and defensive organization of the team. Basketball is a team sport in which there are 5 positions. They can be divided into 2 categories: the outer positions and the inner positions. Firstly, the outer positions. First of all, there is the point guard. Their aim is to get the ball into the other team's half and run the offense. Next, there is the shooting guard. The role of this player is to shoot from long distances, but also to get into the other half sometimes and play within the key. Finally, there is the small forward. This is a versatile player, a bit taller than the shooting guard and the point guard, who has to be able to take long shots as well as to break into the key. The small forward can also position themselves close to the basket and with their back to it to receive the ball. Outer players stay behind the three-point line during the offense. This way they can shoot, dribble towards the basket, or deliver a pass to players inside the three-point line. Secondly, the inner position. We will start with a power forward. Their role is to shoot near to the basket or from the end of the free throw lane, but they're still able to play further from the basket with long shots and dribbling while on offense. The last position is the center, the tallest player on the team. Often standing with their back to the basket, their role is to play within the key, in offense and in defense. He also has to be there for the rebound, retrieving the ball from beneath the basket after a missed shot. Inner players play close to the basket, either in the high or the low post. They use their size to defend their key and catch the rebounds. Depending on your skills and your body structure, find the position in which you are the most comfortable. However, many players are versatile and aren't limited to one position. Over to you. In this video, you will learn to choose the right equipment to play basketball. To be well equipped is an essential step for the security and comfort of basketball players. The most necessary items to play basketball are appropriate kit, shoes, and a ball. Firstly, your kit. In basketball, players wear shorts and a sleeveless shirt that facilitates the movement of your arms. The color of the vests helps you tell the teams apart. Be careful not to wear any jewelry which could hurt you or your opponents. Secondly, your shoes. In basketball, there are high top shoes and low top shoes. High tops offer good support to avoid sprains, a common injury among basketball players. Low tops give you more freedom of movement and are often lighter. The shoes should be well cushioned to preserve the joints and the back. And they should also feel nice and sturdy. Third, the ball. Generally made of rubber for outdoor play or leather for indoor play, the basketball comes in different sizes. Size 5 balls are used by children up to the age of about 11. Size 6 balls are a bit bigger and are used in women's basketball as well as for players under 13 years old. Size 7 balls, slightly bigger again, are the standard in men's basketball for players over 14. The basic equipment to practice basketball is simple and quite cheap, which means it's easy to get started. Choose the right ball, get your shoes on, and it's over to you.